Edward, and the middle initial is L, Brooks, Brooks. I was born July the 29th, 1931, Portsmouth, Virginia. I graduated from Craddock High School. That's in Craddock in Portsmouth. Well, when I graduated, I went to postgraduate Fork Union Military Academy, Fork Union, Virginia.
Why? Did you like military?
Yes, I kind of liked the military, but my parents felt like I wasn't ready for college. So I needed a
more discipline.
I guess you could say that.
Did you know anything about Korea around that time?
Never heard of Korea.
You never heard?
Never heard of it. No, never heard of Korea.
How about China?
China, oh yes.
How about Japan?
Japan, yes.
But not Korea.
Never heard of Korea.
Oh. And you never imagined that you would end up in Korea.
That is correct. So I graduated from Fork Union Military Academy as postgraduate.
When?
That was 1950.
Do you remember the month? May?
Yeah, I guess it was May. Yes.
And then what happened to you?
Well, I went over, enrolled in William and Mary VPI.
What is that?
That's the college it was a 2-year college in Norfolk. It's now Old Dominion. That used to be William and Mary VPI extension, which is Old Dominion now. And I took up engineering drafting, and I graduated from there.
Wow, you have a quite educational background there.
Well, yeah, to a certain extent.
Must have been expensive at the time too, right?
Well, my mother remarried just prior to me going to Fork Union. So
she was able to financially support you.
yeah, her and a stepfather.
I see.
Yes, yes.
So what did you do around the time that the Korean War broke out?
Well, at that time, the draft was going on.
Yeah.
And
what did people say about this draft? Must not been very popular, right?
No, it's not. It wasn't very popular.
What people did say about it? Do you remember?
Not really. I didn't have too much association with some of those people, but you had to register for the draft, and then I remember going down and registering for the draft, and I decided it was best for me to join the National Guard. So when the Korean War broke out, like I say, I was in the National Guard, and they called me up for the physical. I had to take a physical for the draft, and I had to go to Richmond. I remember getting on the bus and going to Richmond for the draft, for the physical prior to being drafted. Well, that preyed on my mind. So I went to the company commander in the National Guard and told him. And he told me, he says, you know, your best bet would be to re-enlist back here in the National Guard for 3 years, and we'll let you go into the Army for the 2 years and come back there. So I thought about that, and I says, well, I had a rank of corporal, And
In the National Guard?
yes, I had a rank of corporal in the National Guard, and he'd warned me. He says, "Well, if you're drafted, you would lose that rank." So at the time, I say, stuff was kind of hard. Your mother was having trouble making ends meet and so forth like that, and it does give a little bit more money. I said, "Well, I think I'll go ahead and tell him I'll go ahead and call me up for the go on active duty." So that's what happened.
Okay. So when did you?
So what they called me for the go on active duty in the Army.
When?
That was in March of 1953. Well, March, maybe February of 1953, and I was to report to Fort Lee, Virginia, according to my orders from the Army. And I reported there. The next day, I got a letter to report to the draft. So I beat it by 1 day, which is awful close. And I was in the artillery unit in the National Guard. When I reported to Fort Lee, I was there about 2 weeks. They sent me to Fort Meade, Maryland. Well, that's where you process for your, well, they sent you for your training. But, well, they sent me from there for basic training, 16 weeks, infantry training in Camp Rucker, Alabama. That's now Fort Rucker, Alabama. And it's they do helicopter training there now. But that was all infantry training, 16 weeks. Well, at that time, all the units, when they finished the basic training, was sent right to Korea, the whole unit. When I finished...
When was it? When you finished it?
It was, it was in 19, let's see, March, April, May, June. It was right prior to the Korean armistice. I had finished the basic training, and they pulled me out of there. I was the only one at that time from my unit was sent to Korea, and they flew me over. And I was flying over when the armistice was signed. I was on the way over when it was signed. And I for this day, I can't remember where we landed. We landed in Japan somewhere. And I remember riding on a train. It seemed like we rode the whole length of Japan on a train. And I don't remember where I shipped out from Japan. I can't remember all these little details now. But I remember landing in Busan.
When was it?
That was after the armistice. That was just right after, because it was being signed as I was flying over. So that, like I said, dates with me now, I can't remember. But it was just after the armistice.
Yeah.
Might have been 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
So it must be in August.
Yeah, it had to be in August. Yes, yeah, it had to be in August. But I know I was in Japan at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and so.
Where did you go from there?
From Busan?
Yeah.
Kojido. That's where they had all the prisoners. So all those pictures that was taken, everything was the Kodachrome slides and so
How
forth.
many do you have?
Pardon?
How many of those slides do you have?
Oh, I don't know. I got quite a few slides. Most of them, I think, it was after we went up towards towards the 38th parallel. We moved shortly after the prisoners left.
Oh, I see.
The unit moved out of Kojido, and when we were stationed in the Yangu Valley,
Uh-huh.
I remember that,
Mm-hmm.
and we at that time the units were doing a lot of training. It wasn't any too much of the hostilities going on right then, so it was a training, constantly training. And then soon after they promoted me to sergeant first class, and
Whom did you train? You were not receiving training, but you helped others to be trained, right?
no, the whole unit was training
For what?
for whatever might happen. At the time you didn't know what they would.
Were there any Korean soldiers being
No,
trained with you?
no, was not. We didn't have any Korean soldiers at all training with us. No.
Were there any dangerous moment during your service in Korea?
Was there any dangerous moment? Well, I can't say that we ran into any hostilities of shooting, but we had to patrol the areas.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go out at night and patrol, and then later on we'd have to man the different entrances, and then we'd have to scatter out through the brushes and the hills looking for the American soldiers that were slipping out into the villages, looking for the prostitutes, because the prostitutes would come in close to the camp, and we had to apprehend the soldiers that we catch going through the brush and bring them in, and we'd turn over the prostitutes and the pimps to the Korean authorities, and they disciplined the soldiers.
How much were you paid?
How much were you paid?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much we were paid. We were paid the rate for the rank that I had at that time, and so I can't. I don't remember all them. What I was paid. I was paid for the regular rank that I had.
What is your memory of Korea when you left Korea? What kind of scenes do you still see when you
Well, when I left Korea, I haven't been back since, but I heard it's a lot different.
Yeah.
But I remember when I left Korea, I had a good, favorable memory of Japan. I said, I would love to go back to Japan, but I sure wouldn't want to go back to Korea, because at that time the roads was the only roads that I saw were maybe some in Busan and some at Seoul, and everything was just dust. Dusty roads, and so I had that was my memory of it. I just said I never want to go back there again. But now what I've seen, the things that's happened between South Korea and North Korea, I've changed my mind about that.
You want to go back?
I wouldn't mind going back. Yes, I really wouldn't now. Just to see the big changes that have been made, for what I can see. You know, when you look at a satellite image of the North and the South,
Yeah.
you see the lights, all the lights in the South, and the North is dark.
What do you think is the legacy of Korean War and the Korean War veterans?
When you compare the North and the South, there's so much difference that it's just unreal.
Yeah. People say it's a forgotten war. Some say it's a police action.
Yes,
What do you
that's
say to that?
well, that's what they called it when we were over there. Called it a police action. Well,
Was it police action?
was it a what?
Was it police action?
I think was a whole lot more than a police action. Yes,
It was war. It was war.
that's correct. It was war. Yes, it's just there's somebody shooting at you, and you got to shoot back. It's war. It's not a police action, but that's what the politicians, I guess, wanted to call it.
So what do you want to say to them?
They better look again. It looked like it might flare up again.
Any message to the young generations about your service, about the Korean War?
Well, the only thing is they can never know. All they can do is read. And what you're doing here is sure going to help.
And that's our token of gratitude. And the medal. That's
Oh, thank you.
that's the for peace medal. Could you show that to us? Again, thank you very much for the interview and thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.